climate change theology that dominates the Biden administration requires finding ways to negotiate with China on things like carbon emissions. Now, I think this is a complete waste of time, since I think China is fully prepared to agree to almost anything and then ignore it.
That's former National Security Advisor John Bolton last night on the show with a warning for President Biden. Mr. Biden meets with the Chinese president, strongman dictator Xi Jinping, tomorrow. The Chinese foreign minister's threat of military action against the United States will hang over the meeting. He says House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's planned visit to Taiwan is disrespectful, a red line to the communists in Beijing. Again, the Chinese are threatening war over the travel plans of the person number 3 in line to the presidency. And President Biden is willing to talk about climate and anything else Xi Jinping feels like. It's telling that big-name Republicans are siding with the speaker going to Taiwan, including former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Florida Congressman Michael Waltz, former Defense Policy Director for Secretaries of Defense, also advisor to then Vice President Dick Cheney, is with us. Congressman, why are we even having a phone call with the Chinese if they're threatening war over travel plans of a U.S. official?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I think Speaker Pelosi should just go. We don't allow the Chinese Communist Party to dictate which allies we visit. And here's the problem. Should she not go now, what message does that send to Japan, South Korea, Australia, and our other allies in the region that if we won't even visit because of a Chinese threat, what message does that send on our ability or willingness to, defend Taiwan, again, if we won't even visit? I think more broadly, Leland, we need to walk away from this policy of strategic ambiguity where we leave it up in the air of what we'll do with Taiwan and move to a policy of deterrence. Biden slipped kind of in those in that direction, but then his staff cleans it up. I think we need to be clear we'll defend Taiwan, and as a deterrent measure, that's the way to hopefully keep the peace.
You make such a great point, because when President Biden, not once but twice, as you say, slipped and said we would defend Taiwan, the Chinese got so very upset, the White House staff walked it back. That was taken as President Biden really having a backbone and going farther than any of his predecessors of either party would on Taiwan. Now he seems to be backpedaling much faster than anyone else ever has from Taiwan, and even saying that he doesn't think the speaker should go. Why this about face?
Yeah, and at the same time, look, we know from Putin to Xi to the Ayatollahs in Iran, they are emboldened by perceived weakness. They're deterred by strength. And Biden needs to be consistent and move to a deterrence posture. But I think even bigger than that is this competition. We need to stop calling them a competitor. They're an adversary in the Chinese Communist Party. This is going to be won or lost economically well before militarily. And when we have all of the alarm bells ringing about Chinese penetration of the Fed, of our food supply, their domination of our pharmaceutical industry, their domination of green energy supplies, yet the left is obsessed with moving us in that direction. We've got to bring our supply chains back home and stop playing into the CCP's strategy of using them against us as they actively create worldwide dependency on them. I think those are the measures. The last thing Biden should be doing then is dropping the tariffs playing right in hands.
Somehow, and by the way, this is presidents of both parties have treated the Chinese as fair actors at some point, is that they'll make deals and then stick to them. You think about their broken promises. Intellectual property theft continues over and over again. The 1984 agreement on Hong Kong, they willfully violate and now don't even bother even with the appearance of living up to it. And obviously they refuse to give over the COVID-19 data. That makes you really question everything and anything that they do in the United States. $700 million invested in commercial space last year in the United States, 200,000 acres of farmland bought up. I know you've been talking now about this farmland that is very close to U.S. military bases. What doesn't America understand about that China views economic warfare, military warfare, espionage, all as the same thing?
Yeah, look, I think the bottom line, Leland, is, and why we've never faced an adversary like we do with the CCP, is America's drunk on Chinese money. And, from Wall Street to Hollywood to the NBA, to academia, the 400,000 Chinese students studying here, all great kids, but they have to take what their government tells them to take in terms of IP theft. They're paying full freight, and the billions going into to various universities' endowment funds. We as a society are drunk on that Chinese dollar.
Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.